So I'm Dr. Samant. I'm going to discuss about acute phase reactants, primarily focusing on CRP, PCT, and ESR. So, can we begin? So, as the name suggests, acute phase reactants are the markers, are the proteins that exhibit significant change in serum concentration, significant at least more than 25% during inflammation. The primary trigger here is interleukin 6. Interleukin 1, TNF alpha, and interferon gamma can also induce the production of acute phase reactants. So they are classified as positive or negative. So positive being procalcitonin, CRP, ferritin, fibrinogen, hepcidin, and serum amyloid A. The positive have upregulation of their concentration. The negative being albumin, prealbumin, transferrin, retinol binding protein, and antithrombin, getting downregulated during inflammation. So, what is CRP? It is the direct measure of inflammatory response. It is also known as poor man's interleukin 6, interleukin 6 being the primary trigger for CRP, synthesized in hepatocytes. It was first discovered in 1930 by Tillett and Francis when they showed it reacted to C polysaccharide of Streptococcus pneumoniae. So this belongs to a highly conserved family of proteins, highly conserved during evolutions, known as pentaxins. They are pentameric proteins, which are a group of pattern recognition receptors molecule. So the half-life, it is about 20 hours. It does not change between health and disease, this making the production rate the sole determinant of plasma concentration. So what does CRP do? It promotes the recognition and elimination of pathogens and enhance the clearance of necrotic and apoptotic cells. The major function of CRP is its ability to bind to phosphocholine. After binding to phosphocholine, it activates the complement pathway, and it thus helps in clearance of pathogens and apoptotic cells. So it thus acts in both humoral and cellular immunity. So what are the normal CRP levels? The level of CRP that is truly normal or clinically innocuous is actually not known. The levels vary with age, sex, and race, with slightly higher levels seen in female sex, increased age in African Americans. So a rough estimate of the upper limit beyond which we can see the CRP is elevated can be roughly estimated by a formula. Age in years divided by 50 for men, and age in year divided by 50 plus 0.6 for women. Point to be noted, this is in milligram per deciliter. The measurement of unit of CRP varies. Our hospital use the SI units, that is milligram per liter. So about 70 to 90% of the samples from the reference population have it under 3 milligram per liter. Greater than 10, clinically, it signifies clinically significant inflammation. Between 3 to 10, the minor CRP level of minor CRP elevation, it is commonly referred to as low-grade inflammation. Now, this low-grade inflammation has specific place in cardiology. It signifies metabolic stress. So it could be atherosclerosis, obesity, hypertension, or type 2 diabetes. So what is HSCRP? So high sensitivity CRP is the plain old CRP measured by an assay to detect the low levels. So as I already said, it is a marker for atherosclerosis, metabolic stress, an important predictor for cardiovascular events. High CRP levels portend a poor prognosis in patients with acute coronary syndrome. So the markedly elevated levels of CRP are strongly associated with infections. Levels greater than 100 being almost 80% related to infection, and up to 500 milligram per liter, it can go up to 95% relation with infection. Low levels of CRP can also be seen in viral infections, although not to the degree with what we see in bacterial ones. The qualitative analysis of CRP is more important than a single value. Decreasing concentration over 48 hours associated with lower mortality rates. Increasing CRP values on the treatment of 48 hours may be predictive of inadequate antibiotic therapy, and we need to escalate or reassess our treatment. Evidence for CRP to guide antibiotic stewardship is less studied and less evidence-based as that compared to PCT. So now coming to procalcitonin. So procalcitonin, in absence of systemic inflammation, synthesis is restricted to thyroid neuroendocrine cells, and protein is not released into the circulation until it's cleaved from its mature form calcitonin. Thus, serum procalcitonin is typically undetectable in healthy patient when standard assays are used. So when systemic inflammation is there, it is triggered in all the cell. So the primary trigger being bacterial toxins and interleukin 1, endotoxin, interleukin 6, and TNF alpha. Synthesis is not induced in most of the viral infection, point to be noted here, because the viral infection, they induce interferon gamma, and interferon gamma has a negative effect on TNF alpha production. Shock, trauma, surgery, burn, and chronic kidney disease are some few non-infectious causes of the stimulation. So the levels rise between 2 to 4 hours and they peak up to 48 hours, and half-life being 20 hours. The peak level roughly correlates with the severity of infection, and thus we can use it for prognostication as well. So higher levels are observed with septic shock and sepsis as compared to uncomplicated pneumonia and other localized infections. So the value of CRP lies, it is a helpful adjunct to clinical judgment in antibiotic stewardship, most widely studied in community-acquired pneumonia. So discontinuation on procalcitonin-based algorithm has shown to be beneficial without any adverse outcomes. So IDSA ATS guidelines, it recommends to suggest procalcitonin measurement in CAP patients where the treatment is expected to exceed 5 to 7 days. So when to discontinue? So when the initial diagnosis of CAP was uncertain and an alternative diagnosis has already been reached, for example, congestive cardiac disease. And when the procalcitonin levels, as studied by ProHop study, a multi-central trial in Switzerland in 2013, levels are less than 0.25 nanogram per milliliter with probable viral CAP or non-infectious syndrome, please discontinue the antibiotics. So those patients, those who have reached clinical stability within 5 days and diagnosed CAP patient with PCT less than 0.25, suspected bacterial CAP who have received at least 5 days of appropriate antibiotic, and clinical judgment alone is adequate in these patients. So it is again an adjunct here. So when not to discontinue? Patients with rising levels or the levels that fail to decline with antibiotic therapy, we have to reassess our treatment protocol and we have to rule out the other causes of raised procalcitonin. So the patients who are not clinically improving and who have known or suspected bacterial CAP with persistently rising procalcitonin, it portends a poorer prognosis or uncontrolled infection. The utility of procalcitonin for guiding antibiotic therapy in ventilator-associated pneumonia is less certain than that for CAP because it is less widely studied in the trials and it has got a poor predictive value because these patients are more critically ill. So PCT in special population. Chronic kidney disease patients, they have a baseline higher level of inflammatory cytokine, and thus they have a baseline higher level of procalcitonin, levels being as high as 1.5 nanogram per milliliter per liter. But it does rise in these setting, although the rise may be slower than healthy population, and it also decreases after dialysis, depending upon the dialysis what we are using. If we are using a high cutoff membrane, it will decrease by 20 to 80%. And the elimination is marginally prolonged with creatinine clearance less than 30 ml per minute. In immunocompromised patients, apart from those on steroids, they have not been widely studied in the trials. So the baseline procalcitonin levels is again higher in these patients, and these patients are also more critically ill. So they need greater duration of antibiotic therapy. So it is imperative not to curtail their antibiotic therapy based only on markers. So the role of procalcitonin in surgery-induced sepsis needs to be further evaluated. Right now, there is no consensus or guideline for it. So coming to ESR, although it is more a rheumat topic than critical care, I'll just describe a few points. So what is ESR? The rate at which the erythrocytes suspended in plasma fall when placed in a vertical tube. So ESR is an indirect measure of acute phase reactant. It is an indirect outcome of fibrinogen. It is influenced by other constituent of blood, such as immunoglobulins. It can be affected to some factors unrelated to inflammation, for example, erythrocyte size, shape, number, and other technical factors. So increased ESR, systemic and localized inflammatory and infectious diseases, malignant neoplasm, tissue injury, ischemia, and trauma. Conditions that are unrelated to chronic and acute inflammation can also increase ESR, same being as for CRP and PCT, age and female sex. There is a rough estimate for that, age by 2 for men, age by 10 by 2 for women. It is in general higher in female sex and older patients. Anemia, the sedimentation of red blood cell is impeded by other red blood cells. So sedimentation rate is more rapid in anemia. Renal disease, again with high levels of inflammatory cytokines, the ESR is elevated and ESR rise is unaffected by hemodialysis. Isolated rise in ESR in patient with renal disease does not necessarily indicate a presence of inflammation. What are the conditions with decreased ESR? So any abnormality with red cell change, shape of red cell, sickle cell disease, phagocytosis, acanthocytosis, extreme leukocytosis, heart failure, hyperfibrinogemia, cachexia, and clotting of blood sample or delay in testing. So there can be a discordance in between the rate of rise of rate of ESR and CRP. The reason being CRP rises and falls rapidly, but ESR remains high for days. So ESR level more than 100 mm per hour should prompt a search for underlying etiology. So even though it should prompt a search for underlying etiology, it has got a very low sensitivity among the patient with infection, although it has a higher sensitivity for malignant neoplasm and as a monitor for disease severity in rheumatological diseases. So having a limited role in critical care medicine, more of forte of a rheumatologist. So the take-home message for acute phase reactant biomarker, they are just clinical adjuncts. Clinical discretion is paramount. Thank you.